Okay, I think we're ready. Okay. Shalom ubracha. Mr. Hashem. Where can we start? There's so much to talk about. We'll continue. I had something to say about someone, but there's nothing to really add. We're going to go today into Likutey Tefilot, Rav Noson's prayer on what we've been learning until now. These prayers are very powerful. Okay, Rav Noson said about these prayers that there are some people who actually entered Gan Eden because of these prayers. People who were on the lowest of the low. These prayers gave them that connection to Hashem to enter Bezat Hashem, enter Gan Eden. It's Rabbi Nachman himself who advised Rav Noson to write these prayers. Rabbi Nachman didn't tell Rav Noson explicitly to do so, but he hinted to him the unbelievable power of turning his lessons and re-expressing them in a prayer format. So these prayers are strong, and also they explain the Likutey Moharan. If you ever want a nice perush on Likutey Moharan, on the most practical level, it's these prayers, Bezat Hashem.
What's the word in Sikh that compiled Likutey Tefilot?
In Parkaf Dalet.
So it works.
It works until prayer and lesson 70. For some reason unknown, no one has given a good explanation. Noson from 71 changes the order. So lesson 71 is now prayer 112, and he jumps around. And in part 2, it's the same numbering from lesson 1 to 12. So lesson 1 is prayer 1, 2, 2. And after he jumps around, no one knows why. Okay, but Rav Noson, he spoke highly about these prayers. If we have anything that's really left by Rav Noson that keeps the fire of Breslov going on, it's these prayers, mamash. It's the one book that he said that for every day we don't say them, we're going to have to give a din v'cheshbon. He didn't even say that about learning Likutey Moharan. You take Likutey Moharan, Rabbi Nachman. He said these prayers, even more powerful than the Likutey Moharan itself. This is where the pinimiyut comes out. This is where the depth comes out. Lately, a lot of people are asking me, people that I met in North America and here, they want to do Breslov therapy. And people want a step-by-step practical application. And I have to try to, I'm over the years, I'm thinking how to best present it. And people, they need something, they need you to tell them everything to do. Like in a doctor, okay, you take one in the morning, you take one in the afternoon, take one in the evening, right? People want, they need, but they want step-by-step as like baby fed, like you're spoon-fed, given to their mouth. So I came up recently, and I gave for a few people the following regimen, that if now they find a lesson in Likutey Moharan, and that's also a thing. How do you find a lesson in Likutey Moharan? We spoke about this a little, just say it over again, that the book Likutey Eitzot, advice, is the GPS to all of Rabbi Nachman's teachings. Rabbi Nachman said, I can only help a person who takes the initiative and he comes to me and he tells me what he needs. In other words, you come to Breslov, okay, let's see what Breslov has to offer. No, it's not like that. It's your mevakesh. People who come to Breslov are only mevakesh. If you're not a mevakesh, you don't come to Breslov. Breslov is people who feel there's a chisaron in my avodat Hashem, in my davening, in my learning, in my midot. I feel something missing in my life. Because if you didn't feel something missing, you wouldn't be looking. You wouldn't be looking out. You're happy in your base midrash, your yeshiva, your rosh yeshiva, your kola. I'm happy in my life. I'm okay. I'm not doing anything. Okay, so it's not for you. But someone who feels there's a lack, there's something missing. I don't feel good. I don't feel complete. I feel something's missing in my Yiddishkeit. I'm doing everything. Gemara, Daf Yomi, I'm a Gaon. I got 100 of my tests. I know all the Pilpulim. I know everything. I'm great. And still, I feel a chisaron, okay? This is where Rabbi Nachman comes in. And he says, I can only help a person who makes the initiative. Classic examples of Noson. Rav Noson, he had everything. He was wealthy. He had yichus. He was a Talmid Chacham. His father-in-law was one of the biggest dayanim in the world at the time, and in the Ukraine specifically, okay? Rav Noson's father-in-law, Rav David C. Orbach, okay, from a famous lineage of the Orbach, one second. The Orbach family was a big family of Rabbanim, okay? Big family of Rabbanim. And he chose Rav Noson to be his son-in-law. And he could have chosen big shots, big Talmidei Chachamim, but he said Rav Noson has, and yet it's an expression in Yiddish, große Pleitzes. He has wide shoulders that he can take a lot upon himself. He chose Rav Nosson, okay? Who was this Rav David Tzvi, by the way? Rav David Tzvi, his father passed away when he was a kid, when he was literally a child. At the Levaya of his father, Rav David Tzvi's father, his wife was crying, who's going to teach my son Torah? Who's going to teach my... She came home from the Levaya. Her husband came, Rav David Tzvi's father came into the dream, and he said, I'm going to teach him Torah. So Rav David Tzvi Orbach learned with his father, the Neshama came back, and he was teaching him Torah, okay? Until word got out. This went on for about 8 years. And then after 8 years, people found out that Rav David Tzvi, little boy, who was a yatom, and they had no money for a private tutor or whatever, he was learning Torah of his father's Neshama, who was a big Talmid Chacham. When people found out about it, okay, boom. So just so the rest of us, they pointed out, just imagine a Neshama coming from the other world, teaching Torah, what quality Torah they're giving. It's not a joke Torah, it's the Emes Torah, you would think, right? If a Neshama comes from another world teaching Torah to somebody here, so you know you're getting fine, 100%, refined quality Torah 100%, okay? And yet, Rav David Tzvi Orbach, receiving Torah from his father and everything, and becoming who he became, he was so scared of having a mikveh. For over 40 years, he didn't sleep in the bed. He slept at the table with candles in his hands, like they say about the Maharsha with his payas tied to the roof, right? The Maharsha had very big payas. There's a story of his mother and everything. He should let his payas grow, and he had always big payas. But Rav David Tzvi had candles in his hand, and he would sit and learn and fall asleep while learning. And when the hot wax would fall and drip on his fingers, he'd wake up, and that's for 40 years. He didn't sleep in the bed because of a chashash of getting into a mikveh. And besides that, he had one chumrot. He didn't wash on bread during the week, only in Shabbos, because he had major chumrot. He had only like 2 lekers, 2.5 cookies. That was his food for the whole day. And even on that, we didn't wash as a chumrah, but with the same mizonot, okay? But Rav Nosson said about his father-in-law, I couldn't imagine how even Moshe Rabbeinu could be as great as my father-in-law. When I saw my father-in-law, he married the daughter of David Tzvi Orbach. He married into this family. He said about his father-in-law, I couldn't imagine how even described to us by Chazal, Moshe Rabbeinu, how Moshe Rabbeinu could be greater than my father-in-law from what I saw. And yet, Rav Nosson said, when I met Rabbi Nachman, I then began to understand how, yes, Moshe Rabbeinu could be greater than my father-in-law. His eyes were opened to new vistas. So Rav Nosson came from a family which was, in other words, Maleve Gadush, we say in Hebrew, packed solid with Yiddishkeit, with Torah, with Yichus, wealth. Rav Nosson's father was very wealthy, and a Talmid Chacham also. Rav Nosson's father finished every week the Midrash Rabbah on the Parsha of the week. He always made sure he finished all the Midrash Rabbah, and he had his Sedarim. There's a lot of things about Rav Nosson's father also. He came from a world where he had everything. Rav Nosson had everything. He was also a Lamdan, Talmid Chacham. Everyone loved him. Everyone liked him because he was very honest and sincere, okay? He had everything. Mamash. If you want someone who had everything, he's a classic example. And yet, he felt empty. Why did he feel empty? When he saw older Hasidim, Rav Nosson came from a family misnagdim. His father-in-law was a big, super misnagid. Even though he received Torah from Shamayim, from his father, but Rav David Tzvi Orbach became a very staunch opponent to the Hasidim. He lived at the time of the Nod Yehuda, the Vilna Gaon. So what do you want? Anyone who wasn't in the Hasidic movement, and you lived at the time of the Vilna Gaon and the Nod Yehuda, automatically you were against the Hasidim. It was automatic. You were or here or there. You couldn't stay in between at the time. That's how serious it was in the 1760s, 1770s, 1780s, 1790s, 1800. It was tough. You were or a Hasid and you had to pay the price of Deis Nagdis, or you're Misnagid. There was no in between. So Rav Nosson's family, they were all Misnagdim. And all day, every day he heard talk against the Hasidim. His father-in-law, Rav David Tzvi, had a fixed shir of his Talmidim about the dangers of Hasidus. Stay away from Hasidus, okay? So he grew up with this environment. And yet, when he saw how students of Rav Zusha or older students at the Magid of Mizrich, when they were davening, and they had such a connection in the davening, Rav Nosson was jealous. He said, I have everything. I have all the Torah, Shulchan. He was already, before he came to Rabbi Nachman, he was a baki in all Shas already. He had in his pocket all the Shulchan Aruch, all the Shas. They said about him, he was knowledgeable in what's called the Sheva Chochmah. There's 7 wisdoms: poetry, geometry, rhetoric. There's 7 wisdoms in life, like in mathematics and sciences. Rav Nosson was baki in all of them before he came to Rabbi Nachman. He had everything you can imagine in the world of a lamdanut, a lamdish world. He had everything. And yet, when it came to the dveikis in davening, that's okay. He felt totally empty. He felt chisaron. He felt something missing. He said, why don't I have that? I have everything. He has shas and everything, a good family, Torah education, everything. You're Shemaim, fine. But when it came to the davening and the connection to God, he saw the Hasidim had it. The older Hasidim, when he saw them davening, he flipped out. When they would come by, he lived in Emerald, which was outside of Breslov, okay? When he saw Hasidim passing by and davening in the Shtiblich there, wherever, he saw how they were davening, he was mamash jealous. He was mamash, he's eating himself out. How come I don't feel this? If Rashi points out, Tachlit Torah is tshuva masim tovim, right? That the goal of Torah is something higher. It's not the goal, it's the means to the goal. Rashi points out, Tachlit Torah, tshuva umasim tovim. Clear Rashi and the Chumash, okay? I need the Torah as a stepping stone. It is a goal, but it's still the means to a goal. Using it as a goal, it's still a means. The ultimate goal is tshuva and masim tovim. And Rav Nosson felt empty about that. I don't feel that. Lamdanush, everything he has. Rabbi Nachman said about Rav Nosson that when he came, he told the other Chassid, because Rabbi Nachman was very excited when Rav Nosson came. And he was praising him to the other Chassidim who were there. And he said to the Chassidim that Rav Nosson's a Bal Machshava. He thinks too much. The Rambam says about that, this is one of the 24 things, which is Ma'akev Tshuva, which stops from Tshuva. Someone who thinks too much. He thinks too much and everything. Rabbi Nachman says, nevertheless, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to work on Rav Nosson. And he succeeded. And Rabbi Nachman said clearly, without you, Rav Nosson, I'm nothing. There will be nothing left of me. Rav Nosson, not even a page of Geniza, Sheamus, would have been left of Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman would have been some archaic Hasidic Rebbe from the 1800s, and that's all we know about him. That's it. It's Rav Nosson who took what Rabbi Nachman has to offer. He saw that this is not just for Kashtetl in Eastern Ukraine in 1800s and that's it. He saw that the whole world needs to hear this. That's Rav Nosson saw Rabbi Nachman. He said the whole world needs to see this. This is not Salat Nefashot. This is for everybody who wants to survive in the waves of atheism that we're being hit with. Everyone needs this. Everyone's going to need this. Forget about Misnagidish, Hasidus, Sfardim, forget it. Even the Goyim, they came on their own. They're coming. What can you do? Non-Jews are coming to Rabbi Nachman on their own. It's not like we're promoting it. They come there to the Svarim. They connect, even though there's tefillin and Shabbos doesn't apply so much, but they feel the connection of the teachings. They feel this is a lifesaver. How could you breathe without hitbodedut, even a non-Jew? How could we live and survive to have some normality in life without connection to God? At least that I have, right? So Rav Nosson saw this, okay, and he did his best to promote. The biggest promotion, one of the biggest promotions we have from Rav Nosson is his prayers. Is the Likutey Tefilot. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. Literally, it's like a means for everything else. If they were to ask me if I had to go to jail, and this you could bring if you only one sefer, one book. So which book would I say to bring? It would be Likutey Tefilot. Because I know that this book will be the key to break out of the jail. This is the key to come out of everything else. This is the one sefer that Mamash could get things moving. Okay. That was just an intro, a bit of Rav Nosson, his greatness, where he came from. We can go more and more on Rav Nosson. It doesn't end. You know, if you have time, you can read the book Through Fire and Water on Rav Nosson's life. Everything is there. That book, I think I finished in 2 days, and I was on fire. If you want to be on fire by Rav Nosson, read the book Through Fire and Water. You won't be able to put it down. If you like reading stories of tzaddikim, it's real. It's down to earth. It's a book that once you pick it up, you have to finish it. It's about 300, 250, 300 pages, whatever, nice indexes and whatever, appendixes, etc. Okay, so now with all that, we're going to actually start now. But for those guys who are new here, we spent the past few weeks or months, or not years, few months on the topic that Rav Nosson is going to go through in this little piece of the prayer. We spent a lot of time developing the ideas. We're going to now see it from the prayer perspective. Where needed to explain, we're going to explain with Zetash, okay? So if you take a look in the prayer, you see you have there a page. So we're in the middle. It's not at the beginning because we started already. The words begin, V'tagen aleinu b'rachamecha harabim u'b'chasadecha hatzumim. This is a very emotional experience because it's a prayer. So this is a text. It's a prayer. And you can relate with what Rabbi is saying when you feel you want to strive for these inyanim that we're speaking about it, which is the idea of simcha, as we explained it. You see the words there? V'tagen aleinu? Okay. So this is Rav Nosson now. We learned in Likutey Moharan, paragraph number 2, the main themes for this. And now we're going to see it in the prayer format. And by the way, Rav Nosson is going to introduce new ideas that were not mentioned in the lesson, but through practical experience, these questions pop up, these ideas pop up. Rav Nosson presents them and shows you how it works. We're going to see. I'll explain better when we get to the actual example. So Rav Nosson says like this. And please Hashem, protect us in your abundant, right, and in your awesome kindness, chasadim. And he's saying, stress this because we need this. We need prayer to come to this. To what? Bottom line, how you can get out of depression is prayer. Bottom line. Some people say, take this type of medication, go to this type of shrink and this therapy and everything and do this. Ultimately, you are going to need davening. I just saw recently on this lesson, Rav Nosson has a discourse. It's Likutey Tefilot, Hilchot Ishut, laws of matrimony. There, he says something amazing. He talks about the pasuk about Yoshua ben Nun. It says about Yoshua, Vehu na'ar lo mash mitoch ha'ohel. Yoshua ben Nun na'ar lo mash mitoch ha'ohel. I think that's the pasuk in Parshat. If you could correct me, please. I think it's Parshat Kitisa. Why Yoshua wasn't involved? Because he was waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu. Where was he waiting? In the Ohel. He wasn't with Am Yisrael with the Chet HaEgel. He was in a different place. Moshe Rabbeinu, Yoshua, and rest of Am Yisrael. And Aharon and Chur were taking care of Am Yisrael, but Yoshua was separate. Lo mash mitoch ha'ohel. So he says like this, something amazing. Yoshua, Rabbi Nachman explains in lesson 6, is the term for any sincere Talmud. Anyone who's seeking to be a Talmud of the true tzaddikim, he's called Yoshua. He says, Rabbi Nachman, wherever Talmud and Rebbe and Talmud meet, it's a joining of Moshe, Yoshua, and Oel Moed. Any time in history, whenever there's a Rebbe meeting with a Talmud, and there's going to be a good chibur here, this is something really, really meaningful, it's honest on both sides, then this is a repetition of a Moshe Rabbeinu, Yoshua, Oel Moed setup. That's what he calls it, Rabbi Nachman. And so with that, Rabbi Nosson explains, Yoshua represents anyone who's trying to be a Talmud. I'm trying to be a Talmud with the Tzaddik. So it says, what does the pasuk say? Yoshua, Na'ar. What does it mean, Na'ar? Like we say in Yiddish, Narshkeit. What does it mean, Narshkeit? That even though I'm trying to be a Talmud, I have a lot of Narshkeit in my life. I have a lot of mishugas, a lot of shtusim, a lot of crazy things that I'm not doing, that I'm not right. I know I'm not right yet. So I'm a Nar, right? And yet, even though I'm a Nar, okay, lo mash mitoch ha'ohel, he doesn't move from the tent. Meaning what? That a true Talmud will say, even though I had such amazing revelations of godliness, and then I do such crazy things in my life, a normal person would say, if I'm like this, like I would say many times, one day malach, one day galech, I'm jumping ping pong. One day I'm in the ball game, one day I'm out totally. A normal person say, so that's the case. Judaism is not for me. Torah is not for me. Yiddishkeit is not for me. Because look at this. It's embarrassing. Hashem's going to accept me even after what I've done. This is the test. This is the test. Yoshua, Nar. He's Narshkeit. Afilu hachi lo mash mitoch ha'ohel. I'm still in the ball game. This is the test and the barometer measurement of a true Talmud, that I'm in the ball game. Even though I'm doing crazy things, I don't say, well, the H of this, or I don't use another letter. I'm not, I don't need this. It's not for me. Look, the reason why a person is broken is they're so ashamed of themselves. They're saying, how can I put my tefillin tomorrow after I've done what I've done, after I said what I've done, after all the things that I thought, everything? How could I just go and pretend like nothing happened? That's the test. That you lo mash mitoch ha'ohel. He's already in the ohel. They let him in already. He now chooses to, the test is to choose to leave or not. And it's called Yoshua, not Hoshea, because whenever we say Yehoshua, It's the Yud that was added through Moshe Rabbeinu's prayers on Yoshua. Meaning what? When is Yoshua? It's when the tzaddikim, the teachers, are davening for their talmidim. Meaning what? Ultimately, it's the prayers of the tzaddikim on me that keep me inside. What I need to do is to make sure that the tzaddikim are davening for me, like what Kalev did, Masechet Sota. Kalev did when Ben Yefuneh, when he went to Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov, Parshat Shlach, he went to the Kivrei Avot and he asked them to daven for me. The Lashon the Gemara, ha'atiru ba'adi, daven for me, I shouldn't fall in the Eitzah of the Meraglim. That's, Rav Nosson says, this is the main hatzlacha ultimately is davening. In this case also, okay?
He says avosai.
Right, avosai.
He's saying, like, he's not just asking
by Kalev, by Kalev.
In the Gemara, it says it wasn't just that he spoke to Hashem and asked him to spoke to the Avos. He spoke to the Avos directly.
But asking them to daven for him. Huh? Oh, that's intense. Oh, yeah. Well, I assume.
Let me know.
Okay, no sugar. No sugar.
What's the difference between Atzvut and Marashara?
Atzvut is when the shock affects the nervous system on medical level. Medical level, Atzvut, like the Ramban points out, is connected to the Ma'arechet Atzavim, the nerves. When you're hit with bad news or something puts you in a shock, the first influence is the nerves. In other words, the information now puts you in a freeze from the brain, goes to the whole nervous system. When the nerves are not functioning, it brings in a black bile to take in place to try to make balance. It's called Mara Shchora. The Rambam says there's 4 types of blood. Black bile, Mara is a bile in English. Shchora, black. It's there. It's not meant to be used on a general basis. It's when there's an emergency case. Mara Shchora coming out is not healthy because it pollutes. It brings in a type of pollution into the system, making things much worse. So Atzvut brings in Mara Shchora. So we translate them now on that's on a medical level, scientific level. On a personal level, sadness and depression. They say depression is like a medical imbalance, Okay? That's Mara Shchora. Mara Shchora is depression. Who is depressed? They don't want to do anything. They can't get up, can't get out of bed, can't go davening. That's the Mara Shchora. The Atzvut is the sadness that leads to the depression. Sadness is the information hitting me. Oh my God, like that, the shock, okay? Like that's the Atzvut. And then it leads to the Mara Shchora, which now means I'm stuck now. When you're in Mara Shchora, you're stuck. You need something else to get out of it. You cannot deal with Mara Shchora directly. You have to go indirectly because it's a byproduct. Because it's a byproduct, I need also something which is a byproduct into a grama to get to it and to deal with it. Simcha. Straight simcha. And as soon as Atzvut hits,
that means even when it's going to hit you, you won't react.
If you see, that's the thing now. We went into this many times. If you train yourself to be in a happy mode, 98% of your life, of your day, when hit with a traumatic experience, because you're so used to working on simcha, as an instinct, it'll come automatic that you go to simcha. That's why in the lessons connected to this lesson, Rabbi Nachman gives major advice how a Jew has to always be happy, even if it's telling jokes. Again, why did the chicken cross the road? Remember the joke? Let's see that. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because Colonel Sanders was running after him. Kentucky Fried Chicken, okay? All right. Jokes to make you laugh like that, even though it's like stupid, silly. He says this will lead to true simcha eventually. If you're in a happy mode, it's easier for you to come to genuine simcha if you're already in a base where everything's okay, and then you hit with bad news. So because you have a platform where you're anyways in general a happy person, even for shtusim, you dance a little, you make fun, you go to the call, you take the guys in the call, start dancing Habanagila and make them crack up and everything. And even though it's like silly, but because you're in a happy attitude, a happy mode, okay, what it does is when chas v'shalom you're hit with a news, you don't take it to other people, okay, Tisha B'Av, Kaddish, let's slit the throat, and that's it, we're finished and everything, okay? We'll jump off the roof, whatever.
You can't do silly stuff all day, right?
Listen, according to the generation today is so upside down. He says, Rabbi Nachman, it seems the only way to be happy today is through Mila Dishtuta, acting silly. Yeah, Mila Dishtuta.
Once a day, not like.
They say in Breslev, Yom Kippur is 1 hour, hitbodedut, and 23 hours pouring. 23 hours pouring, and 1 hour Yom Kippur. Kippur is the day of Charata and Tshuva. And we're going to that, by the way, here. We're going to go to this. We don't start the prayer. I don't believe it. It's already almost. Okay, let's try to finish this. Okay. So again, V'tishmereini, so he's davening. Rav Nosson saying, please protect us. Tagen aleinu. Okay, because we're going to need prayer for this. Brachamecha rabim chasadecha tzumim. V'tishmereini v'tatzileini me'atzvut u'mara shchora. Period. Protect me, save me from sadness and depression. Number 1, shelo ya'aleh. It shouldn't come up to me. Shouldn't try to ascend towards me. Velo yavo, shouldn't approach me. All these terms. Velo yagia, and shouldn't reach. Why these 3 terms, right, by the way? 3 terms. Because there's 3 ways you're attacked in life. You're attacked or through an aliyah, or through hava'ah, or through haga'ah. In other words, the situations come to you depending on your level of yeshuv adat and your, oh, I wasn't ready for this. It's like something comes to you unexpectedly, or something comes to you, you be prepared. It's coming. We warn you ahead of time, it's going to come. So that's the idea of aliyah, that it's a process. It's coming your way. Get ready to face the battle. I'm ready. Put my helmet on. I'm ready. Okay. Now, bia and haga'ah, it's in negia is like, oh, it's already touching me. It came unexpected. Woo, this came to me unexpectedly. I wasn't prepared for this. So how are you going to deal with it now? So I need davening. He's saying I need davening for that also. I need davening for every scenario of how the atzvut and marashchar can attack, how the sadness and depression can attack. So shelo ya'aleh, velo yavo, velo yagia, to my heart, because the main place of sadness and depression is in the heart. The pasuk that he brings, Rabbi Nachman, if you remember, vayitatzev el libo, right? The pasuk said by the Dor Mabul, the generation of the flood, vayitatzev el libo, and there was sadness hitting his heart, right? And there's another verse he brings from Tehillim, natata simcha belibi. The place of simcha is in the heart, and the place of atzvut is in the heart. Okay, that's the area where we need. So the brain is the brain. Fine. Emotions are not here. Emotions are here. Your hit of information comes here, and then the brain sends to the heart for its emotional inputs in what you're hit with. So because of that, the heart needs the protection here. The heart, your emotions need to be in check in order not to fall to atzvut. Whereas if now, for example, you see a doctor, you see these videos where they're doing an open heart surgery. The average person says, oh my God, I'm going to faint. You see the blood coming out, everything. And the doctor continues cutting. He's okay. And he's cutting it up. How come he's used to it? Oh, I'm used to it already, right? He's a doctor. Why is he used to it? And you're seeing this, you want to plutz, you want to die, because you can't stand seeing the blood. Because he is totally intellect. When he's doing his job, I'm doing his job, right? It says, in halacha, if a male doctor has to check a female or something like that, we're not concerned of here because he's too involved in the medical thing of the idea and the reproductive organ and all that stuff. The doctor is a doctor, so he goes into the intellectual, he's able to make a nituk, separation between the heart and the brain when doing his job. But the average Jew, that's not a profession, it's not our job. I have to have my emotions with me always. That's a Jew. The Jew is as a Yid, we're constantly brain and heart. Correct, brain and heart connected. Okay, so the area needing protection against sadness and depression, which is emotions, is not the brain, is the heart. So he's saying again, lo ya'aleh, lo yavo, lo yagia lelibi, shum atzvut umara shchora klam. Period. I'm davening for this. Please Hashem, no atzvut, no sadness and depression should reach my heart at all. And he goes on now, other terms, new terms. Vaser mimeni yagon va'anacha brachamecha rabim. And remove from me, what's yagon va'anacha? What's yagon va'anacha as opposed to atzvut and mara shchora? Atzvut and mara shchora are the scenario, the cause, if you want to say. Atzvut is a cause. It leads to another cause called depression. And yagon va'anacha now is the situation now, the byproduct of how you're dealing with it now. 1 second. It's how you're dealing with the situation now. It's now, I'm very heavy. Yagon and anacha is like, Yagon is now the slothiness the person has. He's heavy. It's a sadness, heaviness caused by sadness. I can't do this.
Didn't we better say that sighing is a good thing?
Yeah, Kedusha. But there's also anacha de klipa. There's an anacha which is dangerous. Anacha that's a byproduct of depression is dangerous. Anacha which is a byproduct of a broken heart to Hashem because you want to come close to Hashem. Oh, I just want to be near like Bomer. I just want to be near Tzitzel. You know that type. Oh, I can't know. And you let it aside out of holiness, right? That's positive. But here, we're a person now. I can't have this anymore. You just get bad news, and then a Rebbe calls him, your son now, he's being sent home because he did this. And then your wife says there's no more money they're making out, how are we going to buy food for this? And then this, and then you just slip and you break your ankle and all these funny things. One thing after this, I can't. The person he says, I'm closing my shop, I'm just going to my bed, I can't handle this, leave me alone. Or he goes to a room and he plays a Game Boy, he closes the room and just Game Boy, just leave me alone. They play Pac-Man or I don't know what they play today. Okay? Chad, I can see you're smiling. Even your photo is smiling. I think the smile is real, Chad, okay? Okay. So that's Yadon Manacha. So he's saying, Rav Nosson, and remove, because it's already part of me, Chas Shalom. Aser mimeni Yadon Manacha berachamech Rabim. Remove from me this slothiness and sadness, anxiety, if you want to call, in your abundant compassion. V'tiyeh be'ezri, and please Hashem. You see, you have to daven for this. Don't assume, okay, I'll do my training, my mental training is going to happen by itself. If you don't daven for these things, your chances of getting to this are maybe 1%, 2%. When you daven for these things, your chances now are higher. You have 90% chance now, 95% chance. You're doing your hishtadut fine, but if you're not going to daven for it, it's not going to happen. I took this course on how to be happy. I took all this class on simcha and everything. It's not enough. You got to do the davening part. That's what's going to complete the bikoach al hapoel, okay? Okay, look at this. Rav Nosson is amazing now. He's saying something new now. And please Hashem, be with my assistance, be in my aid, and save me, and bring merit, give you the merit. Utzakeni. Watch what he's saying here. Phenomenal. Lefaresh sichati lefanecha bechol yom bayom. All of a sudden he jumps into hitbodedut. I should be zoche, and please be with my assistance. Give me this salvation. But I should have this suit because not everybody has this, to be able to express myself through conversation. What's the faresh sichati? Literal translation means to express my conversation. But really what it's meaning is to express what's in my heart through conversation. The faresh sichati, my siach is in the heart also. I want to express what I'm going through in my conversation before you. Bechol yom vayom. Why is Rav Nosson all of a sudden throwing in hitbodedut? We just talking about simcha now, and he throws in. Watch this. This is phenomenal. In the lesson itself, also, we didn't go into this. A new insight, and you see how Likutey Tefilot is explaining and elaborating the Likutey Moharan. Phenomenal. Okay? So I should be zoche. Let me have this chut to express what's in my heart in conversation before you every day. Vet kol asher im levavi asicha lefanecha. And everything that's in my heart, I should be zoche to express before you. Okay, fine. Watch this now. Ve'ezke, and I should have the merit in this conversation. Lihitvadot bechol yom al kol chatotai va'avonotai ufesha'ai shechatati v'shaviti v'shepashati lefanecha. And I should have the merit to confess. This is not part of the lesson. This is not part of lesson 24. Lesson 24, simcha and simcha and simcha. All of a sudden he goes into confession here. And I should have the merit to confess every day on all of my, remember we went into this a lot, there's chet, and there's avon, and there's pesha. You remember? What's chet, avon, and pesha? Chet is unintentional. Chet is like what is unintentional, right? And avon is mezid, and pesha is mored, even worse, rebellious, right? So Hashem, I should be zoche to confess every day on all of my sins, my iniquities, and my psha'im, and my rebellious actions, that I did sin and do intentionally and rebelliously do against before you. And Rav Nosson's talking as if every Jew has what we did wrong every day. Like we said, Yeshua is a nar. We have narshkeit. It's true. It's part of us that we have negativity. No one's saying, okay, this gives an ishur, gives a permit to act and do avera. No one's saying that. But it's part of life Like the Gemara says that there's 3 things that every person is nichshal every day. You remember that Gemara? That says that person is nichshal on arayot, on machshavot yorim, on lashon hara. There's a Gemara that says that every day a person falls in these 3 areas. You remember something like this or no? Something familiar? Come on, in Shas. It's somewhere there in Shas, okay? I remember learning it somewhere in Shas. Thank you. Our index comes up. Yeah?
Isn't it Yerushalmi?
No. It says a person, you guys learned it somewhere. You remember the idea though, right? It's in the Chazal. It's Chazal. Okay, fine. I'm not inventing anything here. Okay? That every day you have things that don't go wrong. You said the bracha and unintentionally, did I say bracha chorna? I just gobbled the food down. There's a nice looking lady just got on the bus. Oh my God, right? Like things happen. Shem Rachim, right? Things happen. So he says, look what Nosson is doing now. He just spoke about being saved from Atzvut Marshora, and all of a sudden he's jumping into the idea of sins that I've done every day. And he's going hardcore, Rav Nosson. V'lashuv alehem be'emet b'chol lev v'nefesh b'tshuva shlema. And I should do tshuva on them sincerely, on all of these chataim, avonot, and peshaim, sincerely, with full heart, with full soul, complete repentance, tshuva shlema. Ulvakesh litchanem milfanecha, and I should merit to ask and to beseech before you. Mechila, psicha, v'chapara, belev nishbar, v'nitke be'emet, ketzov cha'atov. I should ask before you complete mechila. That's for the chet, by the way. Slicha for the avon, and atonement, kapara, for the rebellious actions, right? The third one, which is pesha. Okay, belev nishbar, from a broken heart, and nitke, dach means very submitted. Be'emet ketzolcha atov. What is Rav Nosson doing? What is Rav Nosson doing here? We're talking about simcha now, and he's going into confession and vidui. What happened here? Because Rav Nosson is going to point out that this is one of the main keys how to come to true simcha. The main key to come to true simcha is your broken heart. If you have a broken heart, and again, you need, it's not all day, but it's needed. It's needed because if you don't have a broken heart, you're living a false life. You're living a life of sheker. Mamash. If you don't open your heart to Hashem, things are happening in life. Okay, everything's like surface level, just passing by and running, rushing, and things are happening. You stumble over this, stumble over that, but you just keep on going, okay? So because of that, and you continue living like that, and you don't take time to do, like the yeshiva word, cheshbon nefesh, that's what we're calling the cheshbon nefesh, to evaluate what you're doing, but you just keep on going. So you're never gonna have that connection. It's not gonna, then when you're hit with a situation, because you're not living a real existence, so then it pushes you off, totally. So here, Rav Nosson is giving us a totally new way how to tap into simcha, is you need to reserve that time to be open, okay? Now he's starting with somebody who has what to open up. Person who's closed all day long, okay, or all life, and he hasn't yet given that opportunity to open himself up. He's saying, Rav Nosson here, you're gonna need that. You're gonna need the time to open up, and that's gonna be your springboard to come to the simcha, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, look, let's continue. Because he's really putting on the table, he's laying it down on the table of Nosson. Right? I should have according to your goodwill, to have this forgiveness. And I should accept upon myself a strong Kabbalah, strong acceptance, and a proper one, nechona, the right, not, when he says nechona, means not take upon yourself a Kabbalah which is way above your level. Oh, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to fast now from Sunday to Friday, and I'm going to say all day Tehillim and everything. You're not going to stand up to that. What type of Kabbalah is that? Kabbalah that you can do. And even not so far-fetched, even something, I take upon myself to finish the whole book of Tehillim every day. Yeah, right. When do you have time to finish the whole book of Tehillim every day now in your schedule? Yeah, I'll take time from you. Yeah. You tell your wife, oh, I took upon myself tailing now. When? The time's supposed to be with me? Well, it's okay. From 1 to 3, I can say finish the whole book of Tehillim, right? And you find yourself out the door. No more marriage, nothing, right? Okay? So that's binchona. Kabbalah, I should accept upon myself a strong acceptance, which is also nachon, which is right. It's at my level, be'emet, shelo echet ha'od, and I'm not going to sin anymore. Okay, a person, for example, has addictions to movies and internet and stuff like that. So and he has access to internet and stuff for work or whatever. So he has to do things with sechel. He says on one hand, I can't chip the internet totally because I'm going to be on the street. I need a parnasa. That's my parnasa. And all the Rabbani members saying, no, you have to chip it. Parnasa, Hashem will send you parnasa. Okay, yeah, you take care of my parnasa, and then Hashem will send me parnasa. I'm not at that level. It's like Rav Nosson, he wanted his son to be at a level where he could just daven and learn and to rely on Hashem to take care of his parnasa. So Rav Nosson's son, Rav Yitzchak, said to his father, I'm not at that level yet. If you take care of my parnasa, then I'll sit down and daven and learn all day. Rav Nosson told his son, Rav Yitzchak, I need my emunah and bitachon for me myself to survive. If you don't have enough emunah and bitachon that just by davening and learning Hashem will take care of you, so go out and work. But every free second you have, you daven and learn. On the way to work, daven and learn. On the way from work, daven and learn. In between clients and customers, you have books at work and everything. But that's how you live as a Jew, is that every free second is with Torah and Tefillah, and that's that, okay? And he did that. He kept his word, and he had Sadarim Kvuim on the way to work, on the way back from work, and in work, in between everything. And he was very matzliach in being his job, and he had a big respect and everything when he retired. By the time he retired and he moved to Eretz Yisrael, he left with a very good name as someone who was able to do Kviyat Itim LaTorah, being a Talmid Chacham, and also working, fine. So he had Kabbalah Nechona. I'm just saying, you have to take upon yourself something that you can handle. It's within your reach. Okay? This is what he's saying here. Nechona be'emet. I shouldn't sin anymore. Person has to find all types of ways how to bypass that I shouldn't be innocent. Some people say, well, I have no choice. I have to do this. And while doing this, for sure he stumbles. He's nichshal 100%. It's not like there's like a what's it called, a barrier and machsumim that he put up, blocking barriers he put up to protect him. He's totally open. I have to do this, right? There's a guy, he owns a ladies' wear business, and all day long he has to see women dressed like this and that. And what does he say? What's my parnasa and everything? So and he's nichshal in the meantime. What does he have to do? Such a person has to find a way where he can have the business, but he doesn't have to be there seeing that type of stuff. Like this new thing they have, I heard this on Shabbos. They have net free. You know net free? How net free works is if you have a website that you want to get an okay to use it, but the administration at net free has to examine if it's kosher. So what do? You send to them the request. Is the battery okay?
Just trying to reconnect.
Maybe okay.
It's not a battery thing.
Okay.
Internet thing.
Right. So what they do, you send the request to them. They're from people. They're not going to check out the website. So there are people in India who they pay them and they explain to them what's a kosher website, what's not a kosher website, what's considered, what is the hagdara, what are the parameters of something which is tsanua, kosher, and what's not.
Right.
And they do all the checking for them. They check everything on them, and then they say it's okay. There's no pictures of women like this. Like they say, woman just like this, woman just like that, or this, covered up and everything. They say it's okay, and they give the okay to Netflix, right? A person has to find ways how to work around. It's one thing to cut totally, but then if you're going to be in a broch now that I'm stuck now, okay, I need what to do. So fine, there's a way how to go around. He's saying here, Rav Nosson, that also needs davening. You have to have a Kabbalah nechona be'emet. Hashem, help me take upon myself things, but that are reachable and manageable, and I'm not going to jump in and then afterwards regret it, right? You have some people, especially Baal Tshuvas, I see them a lot in Nasharim and you're in this area. They go very extreme, and afterwards they regret it. They pay the price. They went so extreme, if it's with the shawl and everything and cutting all the hair from the woman, whatever, they go in extremities or whatever. And then life goes from push to shove, it gets difficult. And then because they went extreme and made that as lechatchila, made the lechatchila as standard, status quo, that's how it has to be. And anything else is not kosher, is not permissible. So then when they're faced with smashes, they drop everything. Everything. It's sad. It's very sad to see this. The person has to know a balance, how to take upon themselves something, and it should be reachable, and it should be something that I'm going to drop. It's one of the first things I'm going to drop. It's be something that I can manage with and try to work a way around B'ezrat Hashem. When you work step by step, you get somewhere.
How do you know how to do step by step?
That's what he's saying here. It's davening. You have to ask Hashem. Is what goes to the singer. I should be zoche to have a Kabbalah nechona Give me, Hashem, in my brain, the ideas, how to work around, that I can take upon myself things which are nachon, which are really the truth for me and proper for me to take upon, and it won't be overdoing it or over extremities and everything, you know? Where
is there a guidance?
there's tons of svarim that tell you about Hanagot Ktoshot, Hanagot Tzadikim. You read tons of books of Hanagot Tzadikim. This Tzadik, the Rebnitzer did like this, the Shepet Tefker did like this, the Pitzker did like this, and all these rabbis, and you want to emulate them, so you take upon yourselves also to do that, and you see you can't sign up to it. You're not them to do these things, to stay up all Friday night, Mishmar, and this, and then you pay the price Friday, you miss Kratchma, you miss davening Shacharis of a minyan, you miss this and this and that. What did you do? These guys, they stayed up, but they daven Friday morning. They didn't now, oh, I'm up all night, and then wow, and then it's already noontime, you didn't even put on tefillin yet. What's the thing? And Kabbalah Nechona Be'emet. I have all these informations coming in, but Hanagot Tzadikim, wow, that's an amazing Hanaga, that's amazing Haga, all these amazing Hanagot. But how do I know it's suiting for me? It's really down my alley. For this, you need davening that your Kabbalah, what you take upon yourself, should be at your level. Okay? And I shouldn't come back to my avelti, my evil, my stupidity. Okay? Evil means like a stupidity. Im aven pa'alti lo asif. If now, aven, what's a good translation of aven with an aleph? Anybody? There's avon with an ayin, and there is aven with an aleph. If I've done, I think foolishness also, but that's evil. Evil is foolishness, stupidity. Im aven pa'alti lo asif. He's quoting a pasuk, obviously. Right? We have to look at this pasuk there. If I've done aven, if I've made an action, activity of aven, I shouldn't do anymore. V'ata, period. V'ata te'orer chasadecha v'tima le'arechamim, and you, Hashem, arouse your kindness and be filled with me with compassion. V'timchol v'tislachni al kol chatai v'avonotai v'shai. And again, he's saying, forgive me and pardon me on all of my sins, iniquities, rebellious actions. V'tasir ha'atzmut v'adagot v'mashchara mimeni. And remove the sadness and the worries, he added. He added da'aga, you noticed? The sadness and the worries and the depression from me. He already answered by saying this. He's answered a lot. What he's saying here is what we saw in Likutey Moharan lesson 24. The cause of sadness and depression is sin. The person does something wrong and he gets worried, okay? This is what causes him atzvut and marashchara. Atzvut and marashchara is the byproduct of doing something wrong. And it's also the opposite. Remember we said, Tachat asher lo avadtem et Hashem elokechem b'simcha. Because you didn't serve Hashem b'simcha, that's what led you to sin. So here's a trick. It's a catch-22 thing. There is sadness that leads to sin, and there's sins that lead to sadness. Okay? A leads to B, but also B leads to A, depending on the scenario. Here, Rav Noson's pointing that out. It's the averot which bring upon the atzvut. He's going on this direction. He's going now. That there's atzvut and da'aga and worries and mashchara, which are the byproduct of my sins. The sins that I've done, the wrong things, those are what gives room for the sadness and worry, he added, and the depression to sink into me. But ta'azveini lavo achar kach lesimcha gdola v'atzuma be'emet. And let me and help me to come afterwards. What does it mean to come afterwards? After what? After confessing, after opening up with Hashem. Normally, once you have confessed, this cleans the sin, right? You know the pasuk, umodeh ve'ozev yerucham. Someone who's modeh, who confesses, admits that I did something wrong, and you don't justify it, you don't fake yourself, you don't fool yourself. Hashem, I know what I do is wrong. Many people say, yeah, I know what I did is wrong, but you know my situation, but you know. And because of the but you know, so they never really feel the pain of what they've done. Right? What's needed is a person is open. Hashem, I know I did this wrong, and it hurts me, and it kills me, and I'm upset about it. And the person, he starts opening up, and he begins to cry even. Yes, okay? That's what Hashem wants. He wants you to feel the regret, to do a true confession, because that's the only way it's going to come out of the heart. And once that's activated, you're 98% clean, right? Modeh ve'ozev, because once you do modeh, vidui, You want to do ozev. I don't want. You think I want to be bad? You think I want to do that? You think I want to eat chocolate bars all day? I don't want it like that. Why do I want it like that? You think I want to play Game Boy all day? I don't want that damn stupid stuff, man. I don't want that stuff. When you are open with Hashem and you feel the pain of what you're doing wrong, so automatically is ozev, right? And then Hashem has compassion. Hashem, that's already confession does a lot. K'hu imachem, the famous pasuk of Chazal for Elu. K'hu imachem dvarim v'shuvu el Hashem. K'hu imachem dvarim, take with yourself words, right? Which means the confession part. Talk to Hashem about it. Confess. That's how you do the tshuva. It's unbelievable. This is how tshuva is done by the talking about it, articulation. That's what he's saying. Every day doing hitbodedut. Have in it that you are doing mishpat. You're judging yourself. Okay, let's try to finish this quickly. I know we passed time a lot. Okay. This is what normally happens. And help me to come afterwards, after opening up to this type of hitbodedut, confession and everything, to immense joy, awesome, powerful joy, real awesome and powerful and big joy. In other words, it's a real simcha, that I feel the simcha of that Hashem loves me, that Hashem wants me, that my tefillin has a value, my mitzvot have a value, my life has a value, nothing is a waste, everything has a value, and Hashem is accepting me even though I have done what I've done, and there's still the chance to start again, and just to realize that I'm in the picture, I'm in the ball game. Be'ofen, right, she'ezker liot b'simcha gdola tamid. Bring upon me this awesome big simcha. Why big? Why is enough small simcha? It should be so big in a format, in a way, that I should merit to be in great simcha always. That it should brush off, that I can always have that joy with me constantly, okay? There was a Breslover who went through Siberia, at least 10 years. His name was Rav Naftali Dubinsky. Why was he put in Siberia? Because he told a Jewish boy to keep Shabbat, because he saw him working on Shabbos. He was a religious boy, but then in the 1930s, 1940s, he was working on Shabbos. And he said, why? He says, because of the communists and everything, I have to work. So he said, but you know, Shabbos is holy and this and that, you have to try not to work. So he stopped. And then they asked him why you stopped working. He says, some Jew told me to stop working. They found out who it was. They threw him into Siberia for 10 years. And he said that in those 10 years, he didn't put on tefillin for 10 years. And when finally he got out and he put on tefillin, he was so, I can't even give the word. He was so overwhelmed that he fainted. While he just said, Laniach tefillin, he collapsed. He fell out of the emotion that he had for not putting on tefillin for 10 years. He had such an emotion, okay? And he went through a lot of nisyonot. You know, for Pesach, how did he not eat chametz for Pesach? He said he ate for 1 week sugar cubes. They had sugar cubes in Siberia. That was the closest to not being chametz, okay? So he had sugar cubes for 7 days. That's how he was able to survive Pesach without chametz and everything. And he went through a lot of tears, a lot of crying. And eventually, after 10 years, he got out. And when he came to Eretz Yisrael, this man was Mr. Simcha. He was, you saw him, you couldn't be serious because the guy would take you and start dancing with you. And when he was dancing, he would like he would make everybody laugh. And he was like an old man with a white beard, white beers, and he made everybody laugh, okay? All right? He paid the price. He cried a lot. And Samcheinu Kimot Initanu, he merited afterwards to have such a simcha. We have a video of him from 1991, 1992 by Rabbi Nachman's kever. He went in 1992 after 1989, after Russia opened up and everyone can go to Uman, etc. So there's a video of him by the kever Rabbi Nachman and bawling his eyes out, crying and crying. So he was a big Baal Bechi. And at the same time, he was a big Baal Simcha. Because here he's saying, Rav Nosson, that's the key. If you're able to have your heart aroused, you can come to true Simcha B'ezrat Hashem. Some people say, I don't know how to be happy. I'm not really. Because the person anyway is dead. He needs a shocker. The guy needs to wake him up to get him to have real emotion. To wake up. And that's the way to get a person, B'ezrat Hashem, if the heart is aroused and he's able to open himself up in other words, in the confession part, this leads to B'ezrat Hashem in the Simcha part, okay? So he says, I should be zochet to have the simcha now, awakened so much that I can be besimcha always. Ubifrat bishat esek Torah v'atfila. And in particular, whenever I'm learning Torah, I should be happy. And in davening, because it says in the Gemara, you know that? I think it's Masechet Brachot or Shabbat, remind me, that a person doesn't go up to davening, ela mitoch simcha. The way to daven is, if you come to wake up in the morning, okay, time to make the donuts. You wake up like dead, and you go to shul dead, okay? So your chance of davening is like, forget it. You're not going to be able to daven. You need simcha to daven. You need simcha to get out of bed, also, by the way, right? To get out of bed. Oh, I can't put my phone down. If the person's like, all these cheshbonot to get out of bed because he's down. You need the boost, a shocker of simcha. How do you get it? That's what he's saying. If the simcha is so strong because I've done a good confession to Hashem, then I have simcha, which is boom, a blast. That's what he's asking for. I should be zochet to have a big blast simcha. So then it brushes off always. And then I can bring the simcha, in particular, at the time that I'm davening and learning, which is the majority of the life of a Jew. The majority of the life of a Yid is davening and Torah study. Ubishat, and number 3, ubishat asiyat kol mitzvah. And at the time that I'm doing each and every single mitzvah, ezke shelo ya'ale alibi shum atzvut u'da'aga mishum chet v'avon. I should be zocher that there should not come to my heart no sadness, no worries from any sin and iniquity. Because again, normally when you do good things, especially when you try to daven, that's when all the negative thoughts come to you. Rabbi Nachman talks about that in lesson 30. Right? When you start davening, you're such a nobody. You did like this, you said like that, you did like this, you did that. It comes to you dafka when you're davening. It's crazy. All these bad thoughts, they come to dafka when you're trying to daven, okay? He's saying, he's davening about this. I should be zocher that it shouldn't come to my heart. No room for you now. No room for these thoughts here. No sadness, no worry from any sin or iniquity that I did. And he says, look at this. Those are sins. Those are on a spiritual level. Mikol sheken shelo ya'ale alibi shum da'aga v'atzvut me'iskei parnasa v'inyanei ha'olam hazeh chas v'shalom. Wow. And all the more so that it shouldn't come to my heart, because this attacks even more, any worry and sadness from parnasa, oh, he's doing this to me and this, and my landlord, and I did like that, and what's going to be, how am I going to pay the rent, and how am I going to get money for Shabbos, and on this, and I need new shoes now, that's all I need. I had a hole in my head now, that's all I need, another problem like this, right? These worries come to you also while davening and doing mitzvot. I should be zochah that these things for sure should not come in anything involved in parnasa, in worldly matters, chas v'shalom. Rather, rak asalek az midati ve'eshkach az legamre kol ma shavar alay ad ota hasha'ah shani zocher la'asot b'toratecha v'la'asot ize mitzvah, period. Unbelievable. Rather, I should remove, because you're going to need to remove it. It comes to you. You have to pick it up and remove it. It's going to come to you. But you have to be able, with simcha you can. If you have enough simcha, you can take la salek from your brain and forget totally anything that I went through up to that moment. I have nothing right now. When I'm doing a mitzvah, when I'm davening and learning, all I have is right now. What happened before, it's not my business. That's not nothing to do with me right now. Right now, I'm now serving Hashem. I'm doing a mitzvah. That's what I'm concerned with now. Why are you coming to attack me now? You did like this, but it's not your business now. I'm doing a mitzvah. Get out of here. This is not your domain. That's what he's saying. Forget totally everything that I went through until that moment, and that I'm zocher to now be involved in your Torah study or to do any mitzvah. We'll stop here. But you see, Nosson opened up a new door that wasn't mentioned at all in the lesson, and that's how through vidui you can come to simcha gdola. Okay.
Wow.
We'll stop here.
The famous story of my reading you said it. This guy that had a very thin wall in between his other apartment, and he told his wife, "I'm telling you, they can hear everything. We have to make a thicker wall." And she says, "No," and they start arguing. And the guy in the neighbor comes back on the door. "I just want to know that we can't hear anything, so you don't have to make a thicker wall." So he said, "Why is everybody laughing?" Why are they laughing? So you heard them totally discussing it. He said the same thing. He says, "Who are you? Why are you davening? Who cares?" He's like, "How do you know that I'm davening now?" "Ah, you saw what it means to Hashem." "Oh, that's why you came to me."
That's nice. Thank you.